technically extinct and not alive. But
We are T-Rex.
We are T-Rex. All right.
Shit.
Welcome to the Grit City Podcast. I am Justin.
I'm Scott.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Jeff.
Yeah, Ethan got his name in there. We got Ethan HD here. I was really excited for this because I got super jealous when I heard that he had been on previously with Brogan and Scott.
Yeah.
Brogan and Scott, both
Yeah,
of you guys.
yep.
Yep. No Brogan here this time, so he's in Louisiana.
Oh,
so
ew.
yeah. Well, he came from there and his family's down there, so now he's just down there eating random crustaceans, and it's kind of gross.
That's fair. Louisiana's just French Alabama.
Yeah.
I haven't
I
heard
would
of it called that yet.
Can we
but
say
yeah,
French
yeah.
Mississippi?
French Mississippi. I'll take French Mississippi. That's
French
better.
Mississippi. That sounds a lot worse, actually.
A little bit, yeah.
I
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
I like that a little bit better.
Everybody says that you need to go there though at some point.
You do.
Okay, you do?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I mean, is it just like Bourbon Street so you get hammered, or is
That's
there
part of
anything
it.
else?
Yeah. Well, the whole city's awesome, man. You go
Okay.
see the cemeteries and everything because they're all above ground.
yeah, it's all spooky and stuff.
Yeah, you'd love it.
And it's all
There's voodoo
waterlogged.
stuff. Like we brought up voodoo in the last thing.
We did, but don't mess with voodoo.
Don't mess with voodoo.
So we've figured that out.
But yeah, there's all kinds of neat stuff there, man. And it's a whole history, right? It's any
All right,
place.
then. Well,
I
that's-
did mostly drinking.
Oh, okay.
when
So
I
you've
was
been there. You've been there.
Yeah, I've been there. a
All
couple
right,
times,
and you
yeah.
drank a lot,
Yeah,
and you
a lot.
probably puked a little bit.
Yeah, I slept in a car a couple times when I was
Oh yeah. You did that on purpose.
well,
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Quotes.
Ethan is with us today. Ethan, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great.
Like, seriously, thank you so much for coming out here on a Sunday. It's a little dreary, a little nasty. I love this because up until, 3 or 4 days ago, this wasn't on your radar coming out to do this.
3 or 4. I think it was Friday.
Was
it?
it
think it was
Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Okay, so 2 days ago? Scott sees you, at the train? Okay, tell the story, Scott.
Yeah, dude, it was meant to be. So you had thrown a text saying that we didn't have a late appointment. We didn't have a late recording, right?
Yep.
You're like, we don't have anybody at 4 o'clock. I was like, whatever. And I was after work because I was drinking after work. Imagine that.
Yeah,
right?
you do that.
It was Friday. I was having a couple beers with my buddies after work, and got on the train to come south and couldn't remember if I had badged in or not. So on the train ride, I was like, damn, did I badge? And I was like, do I need a ticket? And should I just get off? And then I'm texting the wife, and I was like, fine, I'm just going to get off. So I got off at the at one of the stations along the way. I think it was the first one south of Seattle, whatever
All right.
that one that is. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting for the next train. And I had badged in. I want everybody to know.
Good job. So you
We're
I-
breaking
weren't,
the law.
No,
Breaking the
I
law.
did not break the law. I talked to the station.
you weren't a train pirate?
No, and she laughed at me, basically. She's like,
'Cause
no.
you're an idiot.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, you're dumb here. But it happens all the time. So that made me feel better. But anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm just jamming out music on my headphones. And Ethan walks by. And so I totally bum rushed him. I just jumped up. I was like, Ethan. And he ignored me on purpose, as he should have.
Someone
kept
yelling at
walking.
you in Seattle.
Yeah,
maybe
he's
you
like,
wanted to just
no,
keep
because it
moving.
wasn't even Seattle. It was like one of the rando train stations south. So there's almost
okay.
nobody there. There's like 5 people there, right? Yeah, and I chased him down. And I was like, hey man, do you remember me? And I just talked for probably 3 or 4 minutes before he went, oh yeah, the Grit City Podcast, right? And then I totally just guilt tripped him into coming in today. I was like, what are you doing on Sunday? He's like, well, nothing. I was like, cool, come in at 4. He's like, all right, man.
And then
I mean,
he showed up.
Maybe it
So
was different
awesome.
from your side. I don't know. But that's how I felt. Because right afterwards, I was like, damn, I kind of bum rushed him, man.
Well, I felt bad when you told me that you had said, you'd called me my name out earlier as I'd walked past you.
Oh, you had headphones on.
Yeah. Because, I had my earbuds in, which, I wasn't playing music, but it's still, it cancels a bit of noise. So, and I was just, post-gym, I was, in my zone, all I'm thinking about is getting home because I want to eat some food. And then
rando.
I'm sitting there and I look up and Scott's right there. And then he's like, Ethan, remember me? And
No.
and I did, but I didn't get a word in for 3 minutes.
Oh, because that's what he does.
And so
What are you talking about?
You
What?
talk a- yeah,
What?
but I patiently waited and I was like, yeah, Grit City Podcast. But it's funny because I remembered every other detail about our previous interaction except the name of the podcast.
Funny.
I remembered Brogan was there. I rember we recorded it at Malarkey's,
Yeah.
all these details. And in my head it was what's the fucking name of that podcast? What's the name of this podcast? But I specifically got in mind not to do a lot of podcasts either.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Is there a
really?
reason why?
I feel like a lot of times you can burn out as a performer, you can burn out your audience really quick if you do
Oh, okay.
a lot of podcasts. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of podcasts that are all in that aiming for that same demographic.
Yeah.
If I do
Yeah.
a wrestling podcast,
You know who you're going towards with that one.
Yeah.
And who's going to be listening to it at that point.
Yeah, and so like to kind of not burn people out on like hearing the same stories all the time, I try to like minimize how many podcasts I do. And there's also a lot of podcasts that like nobody listens to.
Yeah.
Like especially like in wrestling. Like 1 in 10 wrestling fans has a podcast.
Yeah.
And nobody listens to it but like them and like whoever follows the wrestler they have on that week. So you're only like talking to your own audience when you do like their podcast. And
well, we got people from Russia. We just mentioned
we do.
that, so you'll
What?
get well, we got like 12.
You guys are working with the Kremlin?
Well,
Yeah.
maybe I don't know about that. So
we might be involved.
Scott's kind of shady.
Dude, I'm super shady. I don't know if you have noticed or not. But.
Well, it's an interesting sort of point too, because I'll be perfectly honest. It's like it feels that everyone out there is getting into the multimedia game, and when doing that, they're putting it out there. They don't really know what they're doing. Not to say that we necessarily know what we're doing at any point in time either, but
no, but we're consistent.
Yeah, we're consistent, and that's exactly it gets to the point of that someone's like, "Hey, will you be on my podcast?" Is kind of the new, "Hey, can we sit down and can I have you captive for a couple of hours and talk about it's the Chris Farley bit. It's like, hey, you remember when you did that one thing? That was cool." And then it gets gone out like that.
And that's like every wrestling podcast though is like, well, how did you get into wrestling? What wrestlers did you like growing up?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's the exact same questions too. So
Yeah.
like if anybody like goes to listen to a podcast I'm on and they start hearing like the same questions they've heard me answer before, they're like, oh yeah, I'm good. Okay. And they just stop.
See, this is the worst thing because this is what I was kind of touching on earlier. For me, like you and I met maybe twice, right?
Yeah.
But I've listened to our podcast at least 5 or 6 times, right? I all our guests, I put them in a list. So when you guys tweet, I see your tweets, right? So I actively
He
follow.
stalks you.
I do. I stalk
Actively
so
stalks.
many people that when I see people like you, right? Like I feel like, man, we're buddies. Like I've hung out with you like 12 times in my brain, right? Like I've literally had you in my ears, right? Multiple times. Where you're like, I met this dude once. Who the fuck is this guy? Like, why is he accosting me? Right.
Stalking me out of the train.
And so I have to stop myself. I literally have to stop myself sometimes from like running up to people that I know that I've only met once. I've been like, oh, I met you at a thing or at the podcast, and so I'd be like, hey, do you remember me? Right? It's an issue for me sometimes.
Well, and I realize that sometimes when it's I've been talking with somebody and I realize the only interaction I've ever had with them previously was like on Twitter.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, we've talked and everything. It's like, oh yeah, on that little snippet of a thing that I half looked at and I liked your @ mention. And I'm like, oh shit.
Remember when you retweeted me, bro? You're like, yeah.
No. It's gonna be kind of interesting with you at that point because even like, I mean, you're a notable character, you're a notable person in out there and doing the indie wrestling and with the wrestling shows and doing all of that stuff. It's got to be, you've got to have that moment sometimes where, I mean, other than just Scott coming at you, but it's like somebody who's like a super fan who knows a lot about you and the stuff that you've done, but you have zero idea of what's going on.
Oh, all the time, and it's super awkward. What's really awkward these last couple years is like Defy Wrestling runs in like Seattle, Tacoma, and Portland, and they've like really taken off.
Mm-hmm.
And like I live in Tacoma, and so there's times where like I've been walking down the street and somebody will like yell at me, but like our tag team is we're the American Guns,
Yeah.
and our thing is Guns Up.
Oh no.
And so like I'll be walking around
Ethan,
Tacoma,
Guns Up!
yeah, and somebody
And you're
will
like,
just
"That's
yell
not
like
Tacoma."
Guns Up,
Oh shit.
and I'm like, nope. And it's happened like a handful of times. And I remember the one time like I dreaded the most, and the dude tweeted me like maybe 5 minutes after to like acknowledge that it was him.
Yeah.
I was like in Lakewood. I was heading to the theater to go see Detective Pikachu. And this dude like zipped past me yelling Guns Up, and I was like, this is how I'm gonna die. Like ticket in a hand to go see Detective Pikachu.
Guns up. And you're like, nope, damn it.
He died doing what he loved.
Watching
indulging his
Detective
inner
Pikachu.
12-year-old.
Okay, so you just mentioned Detective Pikachu. You're wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Squirtles shirt.
Damn right.
So you a big old Pokemon fan then?
Kind of.
Okay.
I enjoy like the original Pokemon.
Oh, Pokemon hipster here.
Yeah, I don't follow like the new games at all.
All right, I understand
Like,
that. There's a
it
lot
is-
of games.
Yeah,
There's
is
a lot.
like I play red, blue, and yellow. Like probably once a year, we'll dust off like my old Game Boy Color and go back through and like play the game again. and it's always on some random whim where somebody will be like, yeah, like this guy on YouTube like beat Pokemon Yellow using only a Ditto. And I'm like, that's weird. I wonder how far I could get.
And then it's that nostalgia going back into it. It's a familiarity when you've been doing it
Yeah.
for that long. You're like, I want to try this something else. You want to try a different thing. I get that with like Skyrim or something,
See,
or like a
that's
lot
what
of video
I
games.
was gonna say. You give me shit for not playing games, right? But
Yeah.
Skyrim, like I will take an RPG like that, and I will play like one type of character and play all the way through, and then turn around and just pick a totally different type of character and play all the way through. And I have certain ones I like, right? And then other ones where you get a few in, and I'm like, whoever plays a sorcerer, this is the dumbest thing ever, right? And I just scrap them or like whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it's usually Magic. I hate Magic. Stupid for
Why do you hate Magic?
Because it's dumb.
Like magic, like in the like fantasy sense, or
Yeah,
like okay,
in the
not
fantasy
magic,
sense.
like prestidigitation, where like
You just used a word that he doesn't know.
oh
Could you tell?
yeah,
I know, right?
The deafening silence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you mean like Magic, like
like physical magic, like David Blaine, Houdini, Penn and Teller.
I mean, it's fun. It can be fun. Yeah. Would
Some-
you do Magic?
No, I actually absolutely hate all magicians
Really?
except Penn and Teller.
Oh,
Now, is it because they kind of like reveal a little bit of what they're doing, or like kind of lambaste it a little bit?
I love Penn and Teller, yeah, because they're genuine about what they're doing. At no point do they pretend they have mystical, magical powers.
Yeah.
And because they like reveal their tricks, they purposely make the act extra complicated so that you're impressed when they reveal how they did it.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I just dropped this in a pocket. He pulled it out. Like they have like a whole like thing
Yeah.
to it. But the thing I hate is like professional wrestling in 2019 has admitted that wrestling is like a work. And it's a
Yes.
show
What?
and like,
Wait, hold on.
oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I got some
spoilers
bad
for
We
news.
all.
have to take a break while we
Just
console
joking,
Scott.
Just joking.
But like in 20, there's still magicians in 2019. Like David Blaine, like wants people to believe he has magical powers.
That he can sit in a tube and not breathe air for
but-
7 years.
But doesn't David Blaine own his own island?
yeah,
He should fucking stay there.
I'm just,
I
I'm
would
just saying.
beat David Blaine's ass
just
if
saying.
I saw him.
Okay,
I
well.
am.
Oh, we got our first. We got our
100%.
first.
I'm gonna show
Ethan
him a
HD
magic trick.
shout out, call out right there. Number 1.
I think if you own
David
your
Blaine.
own island, you can tell people you have magic powers. I think that's probably fair.
My beef with David Blaine is his street magic.
Oh,
I already don't like the weird stuff he does where he like freezes himself in a cube and all that.
Oh,
because
no,
it's
David
not,
Blaine doesn't.
because that's like technically magic. That's just like an endurance thing. Like, what I hate is he'll go like to like some suburb of Atlanta where it's like just like the hood, and he knows that like black people are terrified of magic, and
That is true, because he did go to like Haiti or somewhere, right? Because we were talking voodoo earlier.
Oh.
But he had one where he went to like Haiti, and people were freaking out and like running away
That's not
from him.
cool.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
he'll find people like genuinely like
Yeah.
strongly religious and like believe in miracles,
Oh,
and then he'll be like,
that's shitty.
and then he'll walk up to him and get like nose to nose with them and do like the I want to show you something with his dead eyes. First off, if anybody walked up to me on the street, got nose to nose with me and said I want to show you something, I would show them the nearest hospital.
But you're also in like peak physical condition as well too. Like a fatty like me, if someone gets that close, I'm just gonna be like, okay, what do you want to see? Because I'm not gonna do anything.
But like it's just the weirdest stuff and like
Oh, yeah.
but he purposely like targets these people who like he knows will freak out. Like he's purposely going out of his way to like mess with people. Like any of a magician would be like, who wants to see magic? And then let those people come near him.
so you don't like the people that just throw the that make the kind of feed the, how do you put it, like kind of, because I was going flat Earth.
Oh, you're just
How do you
trying to
feel
get-
about flat
How do you
Earth?
feel about flat earthers?
That's really where it's going. That's
Love
where I
'em.
was headed.
Love flat earthers.
Now, why?
I love flat earthers because there is something kind of like heartwarming about somebody who's so incredibly wrong, but absolutely dedicated to like their belief that they will not budge. Like you cannot like provide them enough evidence that they are wrong.
So
have
you don't think
answers
that
for
the guys,
everything.
because, well, the thing I get all the time when I bring up flat earthers, right, is I get a lot of that guy's just selling things to stupid people, right, and people get mad about that. And me personally, I don't care, right? Like I could care less. I just want to know, like I want to know his, like where he's coming from, right? Maybe that is what he's doing. Maybe he really believes it. I don't know, but I want him to tell his story, right? I could care less either way. But
Oh, yeah.
people really get mad about it. They're like, oh, he's selling things to people that don't know any better, and they're promoting anti-science and things like that. They get really mad about it.
They do. I mean, and I get that. Like they're definitely like wrong and like trying to convince people of their wrongness. But it's also such
Yeah.
an easy thing to kind of Google and be like, oh, okay, yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And he's not genuinely hurting anyone.
But
And that's
magic
my
doesn't
thing,
hurt
too.
anybody either.
But it kind of does, though. Like, no one's ever, like, gone up to a flat earther and then, like, here's proof the earth is flat, and they, like, ran away screaming. But he will, like, straight up traumatize these
Well,
people.
that is true, they do
He,
run
like, did a
away.
trick where he, like, cut a lady in half, like, on a park bench.
Oh,
And the
you see,
lady,
that's
like,
not cool.
crawled after these people.
No. That's a bad thing.
And, like, he's traumatizing people. Like, he's not a good human being.
See, as like I want to watch that video, but I would not want to be participating in that at any point. Like I want to watch that, but I also would feel absolutely terrible for those people. But it's funny in that horrifying sort of sense. Like it just comes down to that.
I get the appeal of it. Like, there's definitely a market for it, which is
Oh,
why
yeah.
he's had, like, 20 TV specials.
Oh yeah.
See, I was thinking of Scare Tactics. Do you remember Scare Tactics?
Yes.
I thought that was a fantastic show, and I will watch it every time. And people on that show, I guarantee there's people that still go to therapy from that show, right? Do you
Yeah.
ever watch that?
I saw a couple
Oh,
episodes.
yeah, dude.
Like that was the one with they had no Tracy Morgan I think did the
He
reboot,
did.
but it was like Shannon Doherty did like the first
Oh, I
one.
don't remember. I just remember
Yeah.
watching it on Sci-Fi.
It was
Yeah.
like spooky punked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, yeah, totally. Like spooky
Have
punk.
people in like a van, and they have someone dressed as a werewolf outside, and they're just flipping out right in the van. Yeah, to me, I can't think of anything funnier than that. Like to me, I would laugh at that forever.
I'm always amazed nobody on those shows ever just got, like, straight, like, punched in the face.
I love those videos. I love it where they scare the shit out of someone and then suddenly they just pop them in the face and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's like, "Well, I scared you."
Yeah.
So
Dude, there's a bunch of those, like the
It was all those clowns.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
pranks got wrong. If you get on YouTube and look up pranks got wrong,
of course.
Yeah, dude. There's people that just go do dumb things, stepping on people's shoes. Like they go to like a bad part of town and step on their Nikes.
that seems like a
Oh,
bad idea.
oh yeah, dude. People, oh yeah, they'll throw down right there.
It seems
Yeah.
almost as bad as yelling "guns up" in Lakewood or Tacoma.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it's up there. It's up there. I do enjoy the pranks gone wrong. I hate these prank couples, though. I absolutely hate prank couples.
Oh, it's the one where they're doing some sort of thing in the middle of anywhere, and it's just between those two, and they're pranking everyone around them.
No, they'll, like, prank each other.
They prank
like, it's
like
like
a
a weird,
husband
like,
and
back
wife.
and forth.
Oh,
And it's such an unhealthy relationship. But my favorite one of all time, the only one that validated this genre of YouTube videos existing,
Okay.
is it went too far from the get-go. Like, she clearly didn't run this idea by anyone.
Oh.
So I want to say they were married at the time. Her and her husband or boyfriend or whatever live together and obviously share a marital bed. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I'm going to dress up this dummy in my night clothes, and then I'm going to switch places with it in the middle of the night, and then put on like a hoodie and sweats, pretend to be an intruder, and then stab this dummy until he wakes up. And so right off the bat, you're like, nope,
Yeah,
too far.
if she would have talked to anybody about that, they would have nipped that right there. It would have been non-existent.
Not me. I would have been like, let's do this.
This is a
shit.
good idea. This
Yeah.
is a great idea.
Get a 3-camera setup. So she does this. So she sets up the camera, rolls out of bed, puts the dummy in place, flips on the lights in the bedroom, starts stabbing this dummy. And this dude, as a normal person would, seeing their loved one get stabbed, jumps out of bed, freaks out, then, and this is where it gets good, grabs a box fan and throws it at her head and nails her like so hard with this thing and just drops this girl.
Worth it.
And then she immediately stops, drops the act and the knife, and then looks at him crying, "Why would you hit me?" And then he, realizing, and like it is a span of 5 seconds, went from dead asleep to my wife's being stabbed to I hit my wife with a box fan,
The box fan.
breaks down and just cries on the bed.
Wait. But here's the thing. They still posted it online because you're watching this.
Yes, still posted it. And that's the worst part, is this girl who got hit with a box fan still had the hubris to be like, got him. Punked your ass.
Like, oh, this will be good for the hits.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
Do a lot of those they make up, right? You watch them and you're like, they're set up from the start. Have you ever been tricked by any? Have you ever watched any and then been totally into them? Sorry, I'm a YouTube dork, so I'm gonna YouTube out on you. So, have you ever watched any and been like totally drawn in and then found out they were fake and just been like total butthurt? Any?
I always assume that every video on YouTube is fake.
Good call.
Like,
Not a
or
bad
there's
one.
some air of like falsehood to it.
Okay.
Just like, especially knowing now how like that world works, like as far as like how you like kind of steal for like bits from like reality TV, like tricks they use to cultivate this like false reality that things exist in. And so like I automatically don't believe anybody who has, especially if it's well filmed. I really don't believe it. If it's caught like with a cell phone camera and it's like 5 seconds into like a fight, I'm like, this was probably real.
That's one of the best things too. So that's what got me. There was a couple of things because I watch bounty hunter videos, right?
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
I know.
Dude, I love YouTube. Look, I spent 6 weeks at my house doing nothing, just sitting. I
Yeah.
hit the end of YouTube.
Yeah.
at one
By the way,
point.
Ethan, he broke his knee riding a
he
Lime
was
scooter.
broken.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. Oh, I don't remember.
Little hammered.
Yeah, I was drunk. But anyway, YouTube videos and bounty hunters.
Yes, bounty hunters.
This dude I was watching, I was totally into it, right? You watch it, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, you're watching, and you're like, man, they sure are picking up audio from so far away. Like, how are they doing that? Oh, wait, I bet they have a mic on them somewhere. Oh, shit, this is fake. it was like literally that, like, train of thought. Like, as soon as I saw one thing, and then from then on, I was like, this is fake, right?
Yeah,
Totally
that's-
ruined it for me.
But that's like the genius of kind of like this pseudo reality, right? Is like you start off by telling people like 4 things that are true, and then like you can start kind of like peppering in lies after that. Like all these people now, like reality TV especially, like you're using real names and like you're giving people like real backstories, so people go like, oh, okay, everything so far checks out.
Yeah.
And then when you start bringing up things that people can't necessarily look into, or at this point are so engrossed in like believing that they're being told the truth, that they're just like, oh, everything must be correct.
Yep.
So then when these people are like getting into like fights on like reality shows or like hooking up with each other, you're like, oh, like how could he like do this to like his wife at home? Like clearly he isn't like really cheating on his wife at home when he knows he's in a house
Yeah.
with
With
like
cameras
13
all over.
cameras
Right.
that's going to be aired on like a major network. He's like, she'll never see this.
They'll edit that part out because that's not the juiciest thing that I've done in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, so it's all fake, right? But you just like tell people like a few truths and then you like sneak in the lies. And then by the time like you get to the big lies at the end, everything's so absolutely insane. But you're like, well, everything else seems to check out. I mean,
I feel like you should run for president right now.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'd vote for you. I'd vote
But
for you.
I feel like you've got it all worked out. You're like, look, dude, you just do the little lies till you get to the big ones, and eventually you're president. No one gives a fuck, and then you win.
I will say though, before Donald
Didn't
Trump,
argue. He's
yeah,
like, yeah, you got it.
All right.
before Donald Trump became president, there were so many things I thought like I would never be able to get away with. Only in the sense that like my Twitter gets pretty dark, and I don't have like I'm like 6,000 tweets in, so it's too late to like go back and start like trying to like find which ones are the bad ones.
Tweetdeleter.com.
Yeah, they're out there.
Is that a
they're
thing?
out there.
Really?
That's a thing. That's
Really?
a thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll just go and purge your whole Twitter, and they'll look and see if you can find like the dirty words and stuff like that.
Whoa.
It's real. It gets a real kind of Bible belty at some point, but there's like, oh, you said hell at this one point.
That's
I'm
so
like,
weird.
I'm
that
okay
that's
with
a
that.
thing, man. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but that
Oh,
is
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Dude.
And so I've given up on that. But then when he became president, and all these crazy, terrible things came out, and not even just tweets, but like videos, audio recordings, like court testimonials, and none of it affected him. I was like, there's nothing you can say.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can say and do virtually whatever. Like there's that SNL guy who just got hired.
Yeah,
And
I
he
was
did a
saying some
podcast where he, like-
horrifying things.
Yeah.
Like really, really messed up stuff.
I don't know about him, but I want to hear these things.
Well, I mean, I think they scrubbed the podcast,
Those sons
but
of
a little too
bitches.
late because everyone actually has transcripts and stuff. So
Yeah, there's still like videos and recordings.
Well, I
of
would
it,
like to
whatever.
hear him to put them in context. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and then
that's
sometimes
that's kind of the hard thing to do
They
too.
might be funny.
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, here, let me quote him, since my career it won't hurt my career either, apparently.
Dude, Chappelle on his show. Sorry, that dude. His
I s-
comedy special was fantastic.
I saw him
don't care what
live.
anybody
I saw
says.
him live at the Tacoma Dome with him and Joe Rogan, and it was interesting because they have a very strict no cell phone policy, and I get it because he even explains it in the Netflix special. Is that you can take a 15 to 30-second snippet of what he says, and you're missing the entire context of a joke. You might not think the joke is funny, but that's just up to you and your determination of it. It's still him putting out his work of art in
Well,
however which way you want to deal with that. That's on you at that point. And I think that's the weirdest part about all of this is that we're taking snippets of everything and we're saying this is bad and now this person is bad. And I don't want that to be how the world works.
Right.
And yet right now this is kind of where we're at.
Yep.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
but-
I mean, it's a dangerous time, but I think also like the double-edged sword to it is, on one hand, like, it's very easy for somebody to like take one tweet and say like, this sums you up, like this sums up how you feel about this group or like this social injustice going on. But on the flip side, it's so easy now to like communicate with your fan base.
Yes.
That it's so easy to just come out and just publicly apologize and not have to like call a press conference or call People
That's a good
Magazine
point. Yeah, yeah.
and have them mince your words and like angle it how they want. It's very easy to just like go on Instagram. Like Kevin Hart, like it was like years ago, cheated on his wife and got caught. And the girl like filmed him and was basically like, give me a ton of money or like, I'm going to send this video out. And Kevin Hart, like a G, I don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, right.
And he went on Instagram and just said like, this is what happened. I made a terrible mistake. And like he put it all out there on Instagram for all his fans to read. And he like beat her to the punch.
Yeah. And that's what you kind of have to do at that point. And it kind of, I just feel it sucks. Like anybody of any modicum of celebrity has to be able to do that. But at the same point, I guess you have to, and you have to deal with that. And it's the changing tides of technology and how people are dealing with all the different technology.
Oh, all the time. Like I put out a tweet recently, and it, again, a little edgy, but again, I was like, it's Trump's America now. We can
Yeah.
tweet whatever we want. And
Trump's
so
America.
all I tweeted was like,
I'm
wow,
gonna
this.
use that. No,
all I tweeted was,
I
wow, this summer really flew by. I can't believe it's already back to school shooting season.
Which I mean, it would be slightly offensive, and it's going to be a little bit. It's dark, but I mean, if it wasn't happening every fucking day, like
And
all
that-
this stuff is happening so frequently that come on.
And that's kind of my point is like,
Yeah.
it's just, we're at a point now as a country where just like, we know like once September starts, here come all the mass shootings again. And so it wasn't like a joke about like kids getting shot, but kind of like our overall apathy to the
Yeah.
situation. But there were people who tweeted back at me, be like, that's really low that you'd make fun of kids being killed. And it's like, well, that's not really what it's about. And I was like, and if you really want to be mad about something, like, here's a bunch of like gun violence statistics to be mad about instead of like this tweet.
Just respond back with the stats on gun violence statistics. You're like, yeah, suck it.
Yeah. And especially because like I already love New Zealand as a country. I went there last year.
Really?
Was there for 3 months. I was coaching at Bad Luck Fale's dojo.
Yeah, I wanted to talk
Really?
about that. New Zealand and India too, right? Didn't you go to India as well?
The year before, yeah, I was in
Yeah.
India for 6 months at Great Khali School.
How cool is that?
What?
Yeah.
New Zealand is incredible. It is literally like Hawaii with Canadian people.
Really?
Like it is that level of
Really?
like friendliness and politeness.
Sounds like the perfect place
Yeah.
on earth.
Well, if you've just
honestly.
ever been around, like
No, yeah, no, this sounds amazing.
well, just Islanders in general,
Mhm,
like are
mhm,
just the
yeah.
nicest people in the world,
Mhm.
right? Like you're automatically family within 5 seconds of meeting them,
Absolutely.
and they remember you. Like they will like remember you. Like it's great, and so it's that kind of like politeness and kindness and friendliness. And so I remember when they had that mass shooting at this mosque.
Yes.
And again, like, I already love New Zealand as a country, as people. And then when that happened, and the entire country said, yo, we're not Islamophobic. We are not anti-Muslim. And that was a statement they made, like, as a country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had, like, a female, I think it's a prime minister they have over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And she went on maternity leave, and nobody cared. Like, it was not a thing.
It's just
Shouldn't be a
life.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just life. It's like these are things that occur, and like you have maternity leave at any other job. Why wouldn't you have it as a prime minister?
Right?
And why would that discount you from doing anything?
Yeah. It's the, like,
I've always
one
wanted
of
to
the most
travel there.
forward countries I've ever been to. Also, it's so much like the Northwest weather-wise.
Really nice.
It is like it's cold, but it's never like freezing cold. Like it's hot, but it's never like unbearably hot.
The selling factor has been for the wife and I because it's been on the list. The Lord of the Rings Hobbit holes.
Yep.
Like I mean, it's like we got to go. Like that's the main selling point. But just even looking at just how beautiful it is and some of the pictures that I've seen, it's like I know that this is not going to do it justice. It's the same reason why we went to Yellowstone is because I saw a picture on the internet. I thought it was fake. My wife showed me it was not fake. So I was like, well, I need to see this in person then. And so that's
you
the
see
same
it?
thing. Yeah. It was the prismatic springs.
okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's just like they showed it was a Google Maps because my stupid TV has the Google Fire.
The screensaver
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it
nice.
goes through, and I was like, "That's not real," because it's just a big piece of water with rainbows around it. And she's like, "No, you idiot! Here it is, right here." I was like, that's like a 16-hour drive. We're going. We're gonna go, and we ended up doing it. It was fantastic. But it's that same thing. It's like you see the beauty of New Zealand and just the way you're talking with the hospitality and everything like that, it's like all in. I need to do this.
Yeah, and it's very green. Like there's something in their law
Yes.
where like X amount percentage of their landmass has to maintain green.
Really?
The only drawback to New Zealand, I lived in the North Island when I was out there. I never got
Okay.
to go to the South Island. That's where like Lord of the Rings and stuff is. The North Island's where they film Power Rangers. So like,
Oh, that's why you were in on that.
yeah, so that was the real reason I wanted to go. And so the one drawback, and I found this out when I went to their history museum, is that in New Zealand, because it's like New Zealand exists because volcanoes erupted, and that's just the landmass that like
Oh,
lives there.
okay.
It's like Hawaii.
All right, yeah.
Like it's just volcanic landmass. So there's still active volcanoes.
oh.
And in the War Museum, they have this like volcano simulator of like what would happen if like a volcano erupted. And it's just like a big living room, and there's a TV, and there's a guy like from the real news, like that you would watch it like home, that recorded this like fake news broadcast of like, yo, this volcano is gonna erupt. And then there's a big bay window that's like a TV screen.
Yeah.
And in the distance, you see the volcano erupt, and then you just see the ash cloud rush towards you, and then the room shakes, and like the lights start flickering, and then everything just goes dark. And the end story is literally, if a volcano were to erupt in New Zealand on the North Island, there would not be enough time between knowing it's going to erupt to evacuate everybody from the island. So most people just would die. But I love that they have a simulator of what it will be like to die when
So-
the volcano
so
erupts.
now you're going to die. You've got, never mind, you're dead.
Because it's a simulator of like what would happen, and it's like, oh, you just sit in your house and die.
Dude, that's so much worse than the Lahar siren that you hear go off. Like you hear the siren once a month in Puyallup, and you're like, "That's terrible." It makes me, but a simulator would make me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, at that point. But I mean, with Puyallup and the Lahar, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
I mean, they say you have an hour.
Okay, good
I
luck.
keep crossing my fingers.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I'm like an hour.
You have an hour of sitting in traffic.
Okay.
Of walking or running down the street.
We're gonna have a volcano guy on, and he's gonna tell you it's not as bad as you think it is, Justin.
It's worse.
Yeah.
he probably.
I'm expecting that.
Yeah,
But that's going to be kind of terrifying because you're just on a big island.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, well, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. Like, and there's
Ugh.
like no way to evacuate the entire island. So you would just, pretty much everybody would die. And then I like walked out of that museum, and I am shook. And there was like a good like 6 hours after that where I was just like looking around and being like, yeah, this would be where I die.
Well, there's been plenty of times. I mean, we're super close to Rainier, and that's with like the Lahar stuff, where I've been driving, and I'm just like, what would I do if that just went up right now? Because I'm stuck in traffic and nothing's going on, and I'm just like looking at it, and I'm like, well, I'm still screwed. Like, it's just one of those things where you've just realized it at that point.
Yeah,
that
just
you're-
turn up your music and sing along, dude. Enjoy that last song, bro.
because we are still in. Now, why were you in New Zealand?
So in addition to just being a pro wrestler, I'm also, I like to think so, I'm very good at teaching wrestling.
All right.
And like I coach it. And so previously I went to like India for 6 months, and Great Khali's a former WWE champion.
Yep.
Hired me to come out there,
That's amazing.
teach his students and everything. And then that next year, Bad Luck Fale opened up a dojo out in New Zealand, and he wrestles for like New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Wow. Okay.
Which
yeah.
is like slowly just taking over like the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like their style that they've innovated is kind of been the style that everybody's like slowly starting to copy.
Really? Okay.
But you have to be crazy athletic to do it. Like there's no way around it. So there's always gonna be people who are just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's a lot of running and like a lot of getting hit. Like, but so I got brought out there, and I was the very first like I guess foreign coach to come out there and
wow.
teach there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Like, yeah, dude, that's a status symbol right there.
Yeah.
Right on, dude.
And so so I was out there for 3 months, just like training his students, and it was so, I wouldn't say so different than what I was used to, but over there, like he was very insistent on like conditioning. Like they want you to be an athlete first and foremost before you learn how to wrestle. So we would train like 3 hours a day, and that first hour would just be conditioning, and it would be like do 1,000 squats, and then do like 100 push-ups, and then do like 100 leg raises, and then like do another 100 jumping squats.
Those are numbers that are just incomprehensible to me as a guy who sits and plays video games.
100, dude. It's not that big. It's take 10 tens.
Okay, yeah. Until you get about 20 into
No, I'm not
those,
saying
you're
I
like,
could
hate
do
life.
it. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
saying I know the number.
Okay,
right?
I know the number, but I'm just talking about the physical exertion.
You could do it, man. It just take you a couple days.
Yeah, and it's rough. And like I'm a big fan of like as a coach to like get in there and like train with my students. And part of it is because I still actively wrestle. So like it saves me time from having to just train them and then go later and do the exact same workout.
Good call.
So a lot of times, and especially if they're like newer to it, like I've been doing squats. Like I can knock out like 500 and like I'll break a sweat, but I can go about my day and like I'm not crippled the next day. So like I also I'm not worried about like embarrassing myself either. Like they're not gonna be like blowing past me like this fucking idiot's teaching us. Like so I'm not too worried about that. But I mean like I do enjoy it, and also it gives me like a good gauge of like how burned out they are.
Okay,
versus
yeah.
like if I'm really burned out, I know they have to be really burned out. So like, okay, maybe let's just go for a jog today, and then like we'll just do some stretches and things like that, and then tomorrow we'll ramp it up again. And
So you actually pay attention to what your students are doing, and you're an active teacher. That's amazing. That's really cool.
yeah, because you get these kids who like really want it,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, hey, you know, like how you feeling? Oh, I'm fine.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then like
yeah.
you know after class they're just laying in their bed not moving because like everything hurts. So like it's just a good to me it's a good gauge of like seeing where people are at.
And you do that locally here as well, correct?
I do. 321 Battle has a school up in Seattle. All right, that's cool.
Yeah,
It's clever.
Yeah, look at that.
And so on Thursdays I go up there. I teach the advanced wrestling class, and so it's for
Nice.
people who are kind of at the tail end of their training or like are working shows and just trying to like come up to that next level.
Okay.
And it's cool because a lot of times what I do is like let's say like I not to name drop, but like a couple weeks ago like did a big tag match with Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring that up because I saw like the videos, and being an old school wrestling fan myself, I was like stoked for you, just to be like, oh my god! First off, he's in Tacoma doing this, and you get to perform with him. That's outstanding.
Yeah, and just the world's nicest guy, like genuinely, like because he was definitely at a point where he knows that like he's set and he's retiring at the end of this year.
Is he really?
Yeah,
Wow! Congratulations, being able to do that landmark event before he goes away.
yeah. I thought that's why they wanted to keep me away from him. I was like, we don't want you like dropping him on his head or something, and then like just retire early and like way to go. But like he clearly knows like who he is as a persona and as a character and like where he fits into wrestling. He's a set guy.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to ever damage his legacy. And so I put out a tweet and I was like, on because everybody was asking me like, are you nervous wrestling Jushin Liger? And so I tweeted the thing I'm most nervous about is tweeting about him and an autocorrect calling him Justin Thunder Liger.
Right.
And then everybody like wrestling internet, Twitter, just being like, you're an idiot. Like, you don't even know who he is and you're going to wrestle him. And so that was like my biggest fear. And so like somebody as a joke tweeted me a picture of like Justin Bieber with like the Liger like hair and like horns.
Are you serious?
And I was laughing and he was like right next to me. So I turned and like showed him. And then he just like hands on his knees, like just leans forward laughing hysterically.
Nice.
And he knows who like Justin Bieber is. I think like somebody asked him,
Yeah.
do you know who that is? He's like, I know Justin Bieber. And I was, oh.
That's cool. Like just to be able to have that moment with them, just like I guess just like a real moment, because you'll put people up there, and I don't know, maybe like with anybody out there, you'll put them up on a pedestal because it's someone that you've aspired to be or be like, and just being able to be in the same room and share a moment, that's got to be. I don't want to say it's better than actually doing the performance with them, because at this point I don't believe that at all. But it's still a fun, personable moment.
Yeah, it was totally cool. And it was this kind of like this weird thing I never would have imagined would have happened in wrestling. Of like me being in a room with Jushin Liger, showing him a Photoshop photo. Something this would look like if Justin Bieber were you.
Is that like your most like what the fuck wrestling moment at this point in time in your life? Like you've done a bunch of stuff, you've traveled a lot, and you've been able to do some really amazing things. Is something like that the pinnacle of that, or is there something else that you can think of?
It's definitely up there. Showing the great Kali how Snapchat works is up there.
Did you see him with a bunch of different filters on and stuff?
I did, because I was like, I was taking a picture like I just finished working out, and like me and him would go to the gym a lot of times like the same time, like not working out together, but we just end up there. And so we're both stretching out, and I was like taking pictures, and he's like, oh, for Facebook? I was like, for Snapchat. And he kind of looked at me. I was like, you ever use Snapchat? He's like, no. So I took a picture of him and put like a filter on it, and he like looks at it for a moment, and then just kind of like pushes the phone down a little bit, and he's like, never
No.
again.
Yeah.
But I feel like 'cause he's just looking at himself like a kitten filter.
Oh.
Like it wasn't like a cool one. He
Yeah.
just kind of looks like, no.
That's about how I felt about Snapchat. Are you active on Snapchat or any of
I'm
those? or?
very active
Okay.
on Snapchat.
Right on. Like I it's not that I don't understand it. I'm just I don't like those filters.
You're just old.
I am old.
Yeah, at some point you tap out of whatever technology and you just start calling it the whatever. Are you
Oh.
active on the Snapchat?
The Snapchats.
Yeah, that's where you're at.
Adding an S to the end of it
Yep,
on that.
Yep.
Oh fuck, I'm old.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a whole library of Facebooks, kid. If you want to come over and see them, I got all the Facebooks.
You did mention wrestling fans on the internet, and you talked about the accessibility, but getting that kind of, I don't know, they seem along the same lines as Star Wars fans for me. I mean, I remember at one point I mentioned something about the planet of Endor, and I got destroyed because it's the forest moon of
It's a moon.
Endor. And so it's like one of those ones. Do you feel it is it one of those things that you just kind of take with the sport, or that you kind of have to deal with and kind of deal with the comic book guys, or do you actively like tell the guys to piss off or anything like that? Because every once in a while I get pissed and I'm just like, I don't care what you have to say, F off.
If it's online, a lot of times I'll just ignore them. If it's face to face, a lot of times I will egg them on. And I will like encourage them to keep going. Because like to me there's nothing better than like somebody who's like a wrestling fan telling you how like wrestling works. Especially like, and I don't mind if they're just like, oh, I understand how wrestling works to an extent or whatever.
Yeah.
But when they're like, man, you know what you should do for a finisher? I'm like, oh my man.
what
lay
should
it
I
on
do?
me,
What should I
please.
do?
And it's always something like so implausibly dangerous, or something that requires like so much athletic skill. And it's like, so one, like you've seen me wrestle, so you have to have like a rough idea of like what I can do. And you clearly know that like the goal in wrestling is not to actually hurt someone. So why would you pitch to me this like impossibly dangerous move that like could only end in me hurting this person?
Because it would look really cool.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it, man.
That's
Yeah,
always
right?
that's always the answer, right?
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen anyone do it. Like, yeah, no shit. I wonder why.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I've loved pro wrestling since I was a little kid, and I've been really stoked to see the fact that in the Pacific Northwest, it's gotten a boom, and there are so many promotions going out there right now. It's got to be kind of fun just to be able to see all of that going on just in your backyard.
It's very cool. And especially because, like, in Washington especially, because the way the Athletic Commission was for so long, like, unless you were WWE, financially, it just wasn't feasible to run a wrestling show in Washington. And there was a lot of, like, limitations on what you could do. And, like, to get somebody licensed to wrestle in Washington also was so much, like, work. There was no point in bringing somebody in for, like, one show. There's no point in, like, flying in somebody.
Yeah.
Making them get, like, blood work and a physical and all these things just to have them
They
wrestle
treat it
one
a lot
show.
like boxing,
Yeah, we were grouped in with boxing and MMA.
which
Not even close.
no, not in the slightest.
Yeah. And so they finally like revised the law. So there's kind of like a subsection for like indie wrestling. So like
okay.
WWE still abides by like their set of rules. And then independent wrestling has kind of like their own set.
Ah, okay.
And so it makes it a lot more feasible now to like bring in like outside indie talent and not be like, but before you come up here, you have to get this done, this done, this done, and this done.
because the guy's gonna be like, no,
Yeah. Yeah, you can just buy a plane ticket and be like, all right, we'll see you on Saturday.
cool.
So it makes things a lot easier. And the commission just lightened up on a lot of things too and let it like be a performance art. So now we're able to like go outside the ring and like there's a lot of things we just weren't able to do before that now we can do.
Well, and I remember 3-2-1 Battle being before that was essentially Seattle Semi-Pro, and then got what is the pencil? Oh, they had the pencil championship too, the pencil cracking championships too as
Oh,
well.
yeah, like
for a little
pencil
while.
fighting, yeah.
yeah, the pencil fighting because it was a whole huge battle where they shut down. Like there's a whole documentary out there.
Pencil fighting.
Yeah. Just look up Revenge of the Banana. I think it's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's
All those things make sense to me.
No, but
Pencil
it's-
fighting, Revenge of the Banana.
It talks about
I see the little train of thought.
But it talks about exactly what Ethan is mentioning there about the old school, like how it was like people just totally crapped all over it in terms of, oh yeah, it's a full on contact sport, and you're like, it's a athletic performance, you guys.
Yeah.
And now, I think 2019 even helps that a lot. Just so you're talking about how everyone is cognizant of the fact that it is a performance, and these guys are doing these feats of athleticism, but they're not beating the snot out of each other.
Yeah, like I'd always explain to people, like in MMA, if you hurt your opponent, you're very good at what you do.
Yeah. Yes.
In pro wrestling, if you hurt your opponent, you're very bad at what you do.
Yeah, you're supposed to protect them as you're doing these feats.
Yeah, like the trick or like the art is like beating on somebody and not killing them. It's sawing the woman in half. If you just really cut a woman in half, like it's not a magic trick. You're just like a murderer.
You're just killing people, yeah.
Yeah, right. You're a very bad magician.
But a good murderer.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that kind of works out on that.
Yeah.
What was
that, Jeff?
What was that, Jeff? Hold on, Jeff.
I think your mic's off, bro.
Yeah, I turned you down.
Oh, I see.
'Cause you're chewing over there.
Justin turned you down.
So we'll fix this. In
That's
post.
why otters are not magicians.
Oh, jeez.
Thank
All
you,
of
thank
that
you
for
very
the
much.
otter chat.
Oh.
that was a far reach.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Jeff's put off by otters, and as such put all of us off of otters. They're the sexual deviants of the natural world.
They're terrible.
They're horrifying.
We had a guy try to convince us that otters were great.
No.
We were on a road trip, and we were driving back from Portland, and it was 4 of us. We're outside of Burgerville, and we were eating
Is that
outside.
a place, Burgerville?
No,
Burgerville.
Burgerville, USA.
Oh,
That's where you get burgers.
I want to go there.
Yeah, you
Well, it
can.
sounds delicious.
And we were like over by this river, and this like weird like local like guy comes up to us, and he's like, there's otters in that river, and we're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, there's a whole mess of them, and they take their food and they crack it on their chest, and then they eat it off. And he's like just explaining to us like everything about otters, like, all right, yeah, cool, and then just like he just wandered off. Like he
Didn't
just
offer
wanted,
you candy or anything weird.
no, he just wanted us to know how
he just
dope
wanted to
otters
give you
were.
some otter facts.
Yeah, and then just like went about his way.
Yeah, well, we learned about the dark underbelly of the otter when we had Susan from the Point Defiant Zoo and Aquarium on, and Jeff decided to bring up otters, and they're very rapey.
Yeah.
It's like a real horrifying
A
thing.
group
actually.
of otters, I believe, is called a fraternity for that reason.
It makes sense. It really makes sense. We haven't really discussed a lot about the pro wrestling stuff, which is kind of fun because, I mean, like, seriously, like we were talking about before, is like, you can go to any podcast and listen about the history of that. But you're still doing stuff in the Pacific Northwest and abroad as well. I've seen you fly out to a couple of different places. So you're traveling all over, right?
Yeah, I was just in San Francisco last week for West Coast Pro Wrestling, which is like just this really cool like indie. I think they've only been around, since the start of this year.
Interesting.
And it's cool because like it definitely has kind of that pro wrestling guerrilla kind of vibe where like the venue for whatever reason, like it's a ballroom, but it's set up like a Spanish villa.
All right.
Which
That's
makes
kind of
sense.
fun.
It makes sense with the neighborhood it's in.
Okay.
But it's really weird for like wrestling because like the outside is all like fake sides of houses and with windows and like with terracotta roofs.
That's kind of nice.
And I'm not gonna lie, for like a good 30 minutes when we got to that building, I was like, do any of these windows open? Like if I can like make my entrance through one of these
One of the
windows,
windows.
or just like during the middle of a match, just like league, I'm like, oh shut up with the fighting, and like pop back in, like it's like Rowan and Martin's laughing.
Yeah.
Like that was my dream, but it's all
Damn it.
yeah, it didn't work. But it was the most I've ever like really like just wandered around a building aimlessly.
That's
like just
cool.
like testing like windows and doors.
Does this work? Is there's a hidden door over here?
I climb up like one of these like fake roofs and like, but the wrestling is amazing. And what's great too is he finds these guys that are kind of like on the cusp of breaking out. And the really big selling point too is like tag team wrestling. Like we went over there and had like just an insane 20-minute tag match. It was me and my tag partner Mike as the Guns, and we're wrestling the 1%. Who was
Yeah, I
Rel
saw that.
Nelson and Royce Isaacs, and it just went absolutely nuts. And did like a doomsday device to the outside.
Really?
Which, okay, so everybody knows wrestling's a work, and so guys plan out stuff. So I've known Jarrell for like at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known Royce for maybe like 4 or 5. And I came up to him and was like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do a doomsday device to the outside. So Michael get Jarrell up on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be Jarrell because I knew if anything went wrong, he wouldn't stop being my friend over it. Like, we know each other too long now. And I was like, I'm going to dive through the ropes like a tope suicida, and I'm going to knock you off Mike's shoulders, and you're just going to land on Royce.
Wow.
And Jarrell's like, I don't know, man. And it seems pretty sketchy. And I was like, no, he'll just catch you. And he was like, I don't know, man. Like, let's see how many people are out there. And, like, if there's a lot of people, we'll do it. And so like we're
If there's
going
a lot of people, it's worth it.
And so we go to the back as like they're letting people in, and we're like talking over the match and like something, boom, and then Mikey Michelle's like, all right, and then Doomsday Device to the outside, right, Jarrell? If it's there, I'm like, oh, it'll be there. It'll goddamn be
if it's there, it's like now you've given me the window. It's happening.
And so it's go time. The match is happening. Jarrell's up on Mike's shoulders, and I'm like, oh hell yes, we're doing this. And it had kind of crossed my mind, like, how am I gonna figure out how to land on this? Because normally, like when you dive through the ropes, there's somebody there to catch you.
Yeah.
But now there's not because Mike's holding up Jarrell, and then Royce is standing behind Jarrell, and so Jarrell will fall on him.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna dive through and like however I land. And so straight up, like just hit the ropes, dove through, like shoved Jarrell over, and then just like shoulder check this chair.
Oh.
So I have a pretty sweet like bruise going on.
And that's like, I mean, people are like, wrestling's not real or whatever. And it's obviously at this point, like in time in like 2019, most people aren't really going to be stressing on that unless they say it ironically. But I mean, the injuries are still definitely, you're still putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah, and it's just a hardwood floor, like it's a ballroom. So like
dude.
there's nothing to break my fall. So like I eat this chair or whatever, and I just remember like I finished the match or whatever. It was fine. I didn't realize how banged up I was till I got like to the hotel. But I just remember being like, see, Jarrell, it was fine. No one got hurt. As I could feel my shoulder like swelling up.
That's amazing. On social media, Real Ethan HD on Twitter, Ethan HD 312 on Instagram.
On Instagram and Snapchat.
And Snapchat, easy way to find that. And I really do suggest following you on Twitter for the amazing content because I'm always entertained by that. And then the photos on Instagram are fantastic. Like it's just some of the fun shots that be able to see you and just like mid flip or anything along those lines. It's really good. Like it's really cool just to be able to see the athleticism with that. I don't know, man. I think you're pretty cool with all that stuff.
Thank you. I dig it.
Are you saying he's handsome? Is
I
that what
think
you're
he's a
saying?
handsome
Decent looking guy. I think
He's a decent
I
looking
like your
guy.
pictures.
You got good form and yeah.
You're
all
good with
that.
your shirt off and that belt on. I like that.
Now you also, I just want to throw this out there because I thought it was cool. You got a sponsorship.
I do. I recently got a buttload of cases of All In, which is a local energy drink.
Is it local?
They're based out of Seattle.
Oh, nice. Okay, I didn't even realize that. It was funny because I was like, I was like, we can get you a beer. Somebody's like, no, I brought my own drink. And it's like, how much you have? A lot of it. So how did this even come to be?
I tagged them like in a few like posts on social media or whatever, and one of the owners reached out to me, and he reached out to his personal account at first, and he's like, hey, like thanks for the love or whatever. Like, can I send you a few cases? And I was like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
But then I was
okay.
like,
Yeah.
but I was like, can you like send me a DM from like the official account just
So
so,
I know
I'm not like
it's not just
giving,
some random person.
just give my address to like somebody's gonna murder me.
Yeah.
Not
Can
that I
you-
wouldn't risk my life and my like girlfriend's life to get some free stuff for sure all damn
But,
day. But like if I don't have to.
Yeah, right.
And so then like DM me from the professional account or whatever, and then like and I'm just getting like he like dropped it like 10 cases.
Nice.
And it's awesome.
Congratulations.
And I personally I love the stuff. Like I ended up probably when I'm drinking the 10 cases, even if I had to buy them myself.
Yeah.
But like what I enjoy most about it is that there's not a lot of like weird like chemicals and stuff and like preservatives.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of like, and I don't mean this as a derogatory term.
Okay.
It's like the White Claw of energy drinks.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like it's very light,
Mhm.
but it still has like all the caffeine and everything of like
Yeah.
an energy drink. But I also don't feel like I've chugged like 16 ounces of like all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah, and that's like one of those things too. Like when you're doing, like I remember being super into energy drinks, and there were some of them out there where they're like, those will give you ulcers, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm like looking at the ingredients, and I'm like, I don't understand any of these. Oh crap.
Yeah, and then this one's like green tea and like
Nice.
caffeine and like I think there's like maybe 10 ingredients, and they're all stuff that like I've heard of, which is nice.
I just thought it was super cool that you were just like, hey guys, I'm drinking this. And they're like, here, have some more. Have all of it. And maybe take a picture or two. And you're like, all right, this works out.
Yeah.
It's kind of the beauty of social media on that.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I also wanted to bring up the reason, like, I was super stoked the fact that you're in Tacoma, and I just like every once in a while you'll have just the hashtag 253 on some of your posts, and you'll be hitting up some of that stuff. So I just love the fact that you're down in Tacoma. How long you been in Tacoma proper?
Almost my entire life.
Oh, okay,
I was
sweet.
born in Tacoma.
Oh,
I lived
nice,
in, like,
all right.
Lakewood and Gig Harbor.
All right,
for
yeah,
a little bit.
South Sound's still the same thing.
Yeah, but I love it, and I always love that like like Tacoma is the New York of Washington.
Oh.
In the sense that like if you tell people like you're from New York, people go like, oh, they're a hard ass.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's like kind of the same thing if you like tell people like, oh yeah, I'm from Tacoma, and like, oh man, are you afraid of getting murdered out there?
It's like, no, but I guess.
It's like, sure.
Yeah.
But also like I'll take the crime rate over having to only go like 5 minutes to a concert.
Yes.
Like,
And that's like one of the beauties of it. It was about 3 years ago, I moved back to Tacoma with my wife, who came by way of Bothell, Seattle by Bothell. And so culture shock, absolutely and totally. And I just had to like tell her, it was like, don't worry. People don't mean anything, but they will absolutely 100% talk to you, whether you want them to or not, at any point in time. You may have to decline some meat from a trunk that someone's trying to sell at a gas station or a front door, like a week living into our house.
Why decline it, bro? Just see what they
It's like,
got.
don't trust the trunk meat.
Dude, they
No,
might got something
just
good.
Don't,
You
just
never
don't
know.
do it. No,
Right?
no, they'll bait and switch you on that one. Yeah, don't worry about that. But it was the fun part of like, yeah, you can like at most places you can hop on a freeway and boom, you're like right where you need to be.
Yeah.
And there's so many cool venues down here. There's some great ones that been able to see some amazing shows. So every time I see even you just doing a post of like having a dinner somewhere like a Sato or anything like that, I'm like, all right, this is sweet. I'm like super happy.
yeah, I love Tacoma. Like, I couldn't imagine moving. Like,
Yeah.
I've been damn near all over the entire world, and like, yeah, it's such a perfect mix of kind of everything. Like, you're not too far from anything, and there's always something going on.
Yes.
And it does, like, for being a major city, it has like a genuine sense of community. And so I also kind of appreciate that. Whereas like Seattle's known for like the Seattle Freeze or whatever.
Yeah.
And like Tacoma kind of has like a sense of community. Like everybody kind of wears it like a badge.
Absolutely.
Like I hated when they like started calling it Destiny City.
Oh yeah.
I was like, because Grit City is like, that's appropriate.
well, and they were just trying to rebrand it from anything other than like, I mean,
What
in
it's
the
known for.
yeah, I mean, in the 70s and 80s, it was rough to say the least, and
Oh, yeah.
it was desolate a lot of the times. But doing the build up, and they're building it back up. They're trying with the downtown, and they've been doing it for so long with the Tacoma Art Museum, and even just like UW Tacoma down here, and all of the different things. They want to make it a place that people want to go. And I think they're doing a good job at it. We just got to kind of keep putting the word out there that you're not going to get murdered going to Wright Park, which I mean in the 90s was kind of plausible.
Oh yeah. I don't know. But I kind of appreciate that vibe though of like, I don't ever want Tacoma to be too gentrified.
Yes.
Like I do kind of appreciate that it has like that air of like, oh, I don't know if I'd go around Tacoma alone at night. Like, yeah, you probably shouldn't. But that's just like common sense in general.
I like that too. It sounds weird, but I like that. I like living somewhere where you know if you mouth off too much, you might get slapped. You know what I mean? It just makes me feel like it feels good.
There's
right?
like a certain like beauty
Yeah.
to it. So I do appreciate that. And I kind of like the Tacoma. Like it's nice, but it's still like the capital of broken glass all over the sidewalk, or like the capital of like, oh, somebody to pick up after their dog. That's because it's not a dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shut the door, bro.
And that's probably the only thing I don't like about Tacoma is, and it's not that the amount of homeless people we have. I feel like it's this new shift in culture. It comes along with gentrification of like trying to push them out instead of trying to like bring them up.
I agree, yeah.
And I get a lot of it is like mental health care is expensive because there are a lot of people who like with mental health issues that if they don't have family or family that can care for them, like you have to put them somewhere in like long-term housing and it is very expensive. But that's also just part of like the cost of being a major city.
Yep.
Like you have to accept that. And to me, like it's still a better alternative than just like letting them wander the streets.
Yeah.
Like, and for the amount of money you're going to pay to try to relocate them or to put facilities outside on the edge of town that like they're not going to go to because if they have to come into the city to like panhandle and like get food and things like that,
Yeah.
they're on foot. They're not like
They're not
at
going to
10
be going to
o'clock.
those things.
No,
yeah.
so they're going to sleep in the city. Whereas like before when they had facilities that were like in the city, it was a lot more convenient for them. And like granted, still a lot of people would sleep kind of wherever they
Where
could
they're
find
going to, yeah.
space. But yeah, you put them in these like inconvenient places, like they're just not gonna go. Like in Portland, in there, I want to say it's Chinatown. It might be the International District now. But they have this thing called the Right to Dream, and you can only go in if you're homeless,
Okay.
and you can drop off food or clothing or whatever there. But it's these like little kind of like stalls in there, and it's just a place for them to sleep. That like You can't
Wow,
get
okay.
like kicked or beat up, and there's always somebody outside watching. Because we stopped there once to like drop off some food, and we were just gonna walk in as far as we could until we saw somebody, and somebody like stopped us at the entrance. We're like, "Whoa,
You cannot.
you
just
can't
go
come in
yeah.
if you're not homeless," which was kind of a weird compliment, right? Like that's gotta
Wait a
feel
minute.
good if you're like
How'd you know?
that.
Wait,
This could have been like day one
okay.
homelessness,
Right.
Yeah, right. They're like, no, don't worry about it. We know.
Yeah. So, but I kind of wish Tacoma had something like that.
Yeah, and it's they have some things, but it's definitely not like that. They have the facility down right off of Pacific Avenue. Right down there, there's that, but I know it's almost always packed, and it's one of those things. It's like you got to start building some new stuff, and they are doing a lot of things for youth homelessness as well. Right down on 38th and Portland Avenue, they've just broken ground on a facility that's going to have some urgent care stuff, and also some apartments for like I think between the ages of like 18 and 24. So it's the kids that got to get out of their houses and are trying to actually build a life. So it's one of those things where at least there's some progress going.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and I would like to see more things like that happening
Mm-hmm.
versus this like we're gonna ban panhandling here and we're gonna outlaw it here.
Or
and,
like Puyallup, who's just like trying to push everybody out. Those jerks.
yeah, like,
They
where
did
do you-
too.
They did,
Yeah, they
yeah.
tried to push everybody way out of town. Put
It's
'em
like,
in-
here's a ticket
just
to
like
somebody
you were saying,
else.
Like they moved like their food bank or whatever outside of town to where like it's an industrial area and no one ever goes, right? And that's just a shitty move in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get why they do it. I understand. I mean, they're kind of beholden to business owners at some point when you look at the city, right? But it's still kind of fucked.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a business owner, you don't want like a homeless person sleeping in front because Portland does have that problem. Where, like,
Dude, that's a hard thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you put a lot of your money and your time and your effort into something, right? And then and you have people outside that are scaring off your customers. I can totally see why business owners get mad. I don't know whether it's right or not, right? Like, who am I?
And then, yeah,
But
that's the problem.
It's
It gets into that,
fucking
it's like-
hard for both people, right?
Mhm.
It's tough, man.
Yeah. Though I do know off of I want to say it's 19th, there is a 7-Eleven where like there's a homeless guy who like every now and then like will just be there like at night sweeping up the front.
Well,
Nice.
there's some
Yeah.
cities. So I know New Mexico was doing this, and I think I think I just read that Minnesota was copying New Mexico's thing, where they were actually taking homeless people and giving them money to do odd jobs around town. So they would have them clean up garbage, just clean up alleyways, and they would pay them minimum wage or whatever. But they actually
You know what
earned
they
a wage.
proposed in Seattle?
What was that?
Making homeless people Wi-Fi hotspots. I'm not even kidding.
God.
Like how? Like yeah,
It's
like
fucked
it's
up.
like here's a backpack
That's
with
a
your
little-
Wi-Fi hotspot.
That's a little weird.
It died pretty quickly, but it was one of those ones that was proposed, and I saw that. I remember seeing that article and being like, "That's a bad idea.
That's it.
That's like not a
I-
good idea."
Well, I mean, if it's Seattle, right?
I know
You're like-
downtown Seattle
it's
would
a-
be the
it's a
biggest
tech-
Wi-Fi hotspot.
Right,
Yeah.
that fits. You're like, okay, I can see
That's
that
not the
somebody came
same.
up with that. Like, it's
Well, I can see why
dumb.
someone came up with. Yeah, exactly.
I can
yeah.
see that it's the town that it happened in.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it
know what
definitely
mean?
makes more sense there.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's a great idea because they actually, I mean, not the Wi-Fi hotspots.
Okay,
but
wait a
no,
minute, wait,
but
what?
giving people jobs because a lot of times they like to earn their own money. They like to earn some things, right? And it's worked out for the cities that have done it. And I wish there was just more things like that for people, So I don't know. That's how I was going.
Call your congressman or councilman or
City councilman.
city councilman. Yeah.
Get on top of that.
Do you know your city? You live in Puyallup. I don't even care about you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do know my city councilman.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
All right, cool.
Personally,
yeah. No,
Oh,
I'm making
all
that
right, I
up.
was like,
I
yeah,
don't
damn,
know.
it,
You guys all
personally.
damn. I'm sure he came to my house. They come to my house all the time.
I sent mine an
email.
email once because everyone was
Did
really pissed about the
Did he
rapid
answer?
transit. Yeah, he did. Well, he answered his Facebook post and then he was like, "Can we do this via the email so I can send back an official thing like that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, cool, yeah, perfect, awesome." But yeah, but doing that at the local level, I think, will help in any sort of thing. Being involved in the communities, I've been trying to since I've bought a house down here. I feel more involved in that, and I want Tacoma to be better. This is why we do this podcast a lot of the times. Is
That's
to,
what you do the podcast.
this is why
for.
I do it. I know you just do it just to drink over there. And,
Woo. No, I'm just not into politics. Honestly, like I mean, it's one of the things that I try to stay away from as much as possible. Right? I know
Yeah.
you shouldn't. You should probably dive in, but for me, I just try to stay away. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That and gas station sushi.
Oh,
oof.
why you got to bring up the bad stuff?
Yeah.
You and otters and gas station
I'm just
sushi.
sushi in general.
Yeah,
Sushi's
just
good.
sushi in general.
Sushi's fine. You live
Did
in
Steve
this area.
Dunkelberger leave? Like hidden secret pages around for
Oh.
people.
Oh no!
What do we got here?
Uh-oh. Is that the history of, or is that his like?
It starts with educating the savages. So
is that what he wrote on his thing?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh
Am
my
I
God.
outing him right now? By like, oh, there's pages.
Oh, well, you could
I
probably bring
can't
out
believe
his
he just tucked that
manifesto.
into the couch like that. He left that as an Easter egg for somebody.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. We'll keep that and send that back to
Oh
him.
wow. There's more.
I love it.
There's just the 2 pages. Okay.
All right. Well, there's some reading material for you. He talked about the history of education in the greater Pacific Northwest area,
Yeah.
and it started with the natives and their education stuff. I didn't realize he
yeah.
put
It
on
does put
savage.
savages like in quotation marks.
Oh,
Oh,
Like
okay,
it's-
okay.
yeah, not- not to, like,
okay.
bury him
Context,
or
like
anything.
we were saying.
In context,
It's a
yeah.
really good thing there. Yeah. Damn it, Steve. Bringing some weird stuff. So, Ethan, this is a nice awkward way for us to end this
Yeah.
conversation. But seriously, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I love the fact that you're a Tacoma boy doing some frankly amazing things and being able to do it on your own terms. And I think that really is what defines what we do here and what we want to see with the Grit City podcast. Thank you for coming back. If people want to check you out, Real Ethan HD, Ethan HD 312 on the Instagram. The Real Ethan is on Twitter. But all those links are available right as here as well. You do have t-shirts on sale at ProWrestlingTees.com.
Yes, ProWrestlingTees.com/EthanHD. You can wear a cartoon version of me playing with my cartoon cat
That's cool.
with a wrestling mask on it, and then a bunch of like other stuff.
Yeah,
on
there's
there
a bunch
too.
of other stuff
There's
on
some
that.
fun shirts on there.
And I know that you frequently post about the different appearances you'll be doing because you wrestle all over. I mean, literally all over the world. So people will be able to see you at many different locations just by following you on all that social media. Seriously, thank you so much for coming, man.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been great.
Thank you guys for listening. Info@gritcitypodcast.com is a good way for you to get us. Anybody who you might think is interesting, tell us who they are, and maybe we'll be able to get in touch with them and have them on the podcast. Also, any events that are happening, local stuff, we'd love to hear about that and check that out as well. You can also find us on all of the social media, which is available at gritcitypodcast.com. And back us on Patreon because we need your money to do dumb
We
things.
need your money.
We need your money so we can buy stickers to give back to you.
Dude, it's awesome.
That's kinda how that
Honestly,
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the patrons are the best, dude.
They
pay
are.
for all the hosting. They pay for T-shirts. They pay for every dumb thing we do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
can't
you
say
get
enough
sweet
good things.
stickers made by the Shroom Brothers. You get
Word.
sweet
Well,
hoodies.
stickers made by
Yes,
die-cut
the stickers are made by diecutstickers.com.
Nice.
But we also have them as the logo made by the Shroom Brothers.
Yep.
Everyone local, everyone good on that. We try to make it so it's someone in the Pacific Northwest area, in the South Sound area, who is getting a little bit more money in their pockets. And that's just the way that we can kind of do that.
T-shirts and hoodies, though.
Yep,
I
t-shirts,
I keep
hoodies.
threatening different colors than black and white. It's gonna happen eventually.
I don't know. I think the black and white's the standard for for Tacoma.
I would like to do something fun.
like
I don't know yet. I
Salmon?
haven't decided.
I'm kind of over like black T-shirts.
See,
oh, I love black
I
t-shirts.
like black T-shirts, but I have so many black T-shirts.
This is true. Well, the problem is I found out that I can't wear any other color. I need to like lose my moobs because at this point, any other color shows off my.
dude, my kid. I was like, why did we pick black? Because it was covered in hair, and I was trying limp brushing it right, and
Yeah.
she's like, because you guys are goth boys. I was like, shut up.
I saw somebody who I was pretty sure was wearing the same goth clothes that they wore 20 years ago, walking from the Tacoma Mall. So the goth scene is still alive and well in this area.
The sweet Hot Topic pants, so like, they're like buckled together at the
Yep,
knees.
yep, yep.
Oh hell yes!
You shuffle with them because you can't walk at all, and they're so open. You're just a street sweeper anyway. You're just sucking everything up under that.
You got the long sleeve fishnet with like you thumb put through like the sleeve hole,
Yes!
and then over it you got to rock your fucking like corn T-shirt.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Oh, I had a corn T-shirt.
Yeah,
I don't
you did.
anymore.
Whatever, you need
Yeah.
a new one.
Yeah, I still.
They're still around, I think.
They're probably still around. I love it, Ethan. Thank you so much for being on
Thank
with
you
us.
guys.